But we'll start with Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill in the main event. Mackenzie Dern, I believe, was ranked 8 coming into this fight, and I believe Angela Hill was
Angela,
she was 14, I think.
yeah, 14.
Yeah, top 15.
Just in the top 15.
Yeah, and Angela Hill's been kind of that's the description of her whole career, right? It's like she's been there for so long, uh, and she hasn't ever really gotten past that hump. She's almost like people say it like a bad thing, but I don't think it really is. But she's kind of like a gatekeeper for the rankings in that division.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
she's very much like the Donald Cerrone of that division, which is
yeah,
hard for
yeah,
me to say because that breaks my heart, but it is what it is.
yeah. And Angela, I mean, she's grown so much. Like in the cage, she got cut from the UFC, went to Invicta, became the champ there, came back, and she's just like every once in a while you can see like the steps of progression in her game, especially her striking, right?
Hmm.
Um, but it's still never been enough to like cross that hump. Meanwhile, Mackenzie Dern says, "I don't care about your striking technique growing. I'm just gonna fucking wing punches at you, and it won't matter." And that's
I
gotten
think
her
this
past that
was
hump.
I think this was definitely one of those situations where I think Angela maybe it's not even like she bit off more than she could chew. I think she could have beaten Mackenzie Dern if this wasn't after such an emotional moment for her. I think Mackenzie Dern was beating anybody in the world last night. I think that's sort of what this
Yeah,
was. Like I think Angela just kind of like
wrong
maybe
place,
just
wrong
didn't.
time.
Yeah. This was not the one to take this time.
Yeah, and what you're alluding to, Mackenzie Dern was talking about. I think she just went through divorce. There's been
Hmm.
a bunch of things that have happened in her life that she feels like she has. She was talking about. Normally, you say like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to fight angry, right? Because then you'll open up holes, all that stuff." And there was plenty of holes here, but um, she fought angry, and she was saying like, "I'm gonna use this fight to like take out all my aggression for all that's going on in
Yeah.
my life." And you could see it, man. Like right from the beginning, she said that her game plan going in was to kind of just like slowly pace her down and cut off the cage, grab her, take her down, try to submit her. Obviously, because Mackenzie Dern's like a prodigy on the ground. But
Yep.
uh, then she was like, they asked her in the post fight interview, and it's like, hey, I thought you were going to come in measured. And she was like, well, I thought she was going to try to like circle the cage and like do all this stuff on the back foot. But instead, she met me in the middle, and I was like, okay, let's throw down.
There definitely were moments where she was like doing the whole measured thing and plotting
Mhm.
and sort of like I call it quicksand when like
Mhm.
she grabs onto you and is like a wet blanket and just slowly gets to a position. She like
Yeah,
gave up her back a couple of times, but it was like in a way where she was like, I know eventually I'm gonna sink my way over and get your hips down. And that was
yeah.
sort of like the methodical points. But then, like she was
Mhm.
saying, like every time they stood up, that woman was going 100 miles an hour, foot to the floor on the pedal.
Yeah, I mean, she hurts her in the first round. I think it was a right hand that hurt her, and she's like
Hmm.
stumbling, right? Knocks her down against the fence, and then just absolutely smothers her on the ground. She's hitting her with ground and pound. She tries to get this armbar with like 10 seconds left, and it's like everyone knows if there's 45 seconds, that's all she needs to when she is in this position. She's gonna get the armbar. The only reason she didn't win this fight by an armbar was 2 times the bell saved Angela
Yeah, I
Hill.
was gonna say multiple times.
Yeah, there was 2 rounds where she had the armbar, and Angela was doing a fantastic job defending, like with her life, basically, just
Oh yeah.
holding on to the bell, and it came both times. But you could see even in the ground and pound, which normally we don't see from Mackenzie Dern. Normally, it's much more like you said, like methodical on the ground. Is more position based. She's trying to sweep you because she'll pull guard. She'll try to sweep you off her back. She's trying to get to a position where she can get a submission. In this fight, it was like, no, I'm just here to beat the crap out of you, basically. And she's like
Yeah.
yelling with every punch, like definitely taking some anger out.
Yeah. It was almost like it was which were you hearing more? Was it the thud of these punches or was it her just doing
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna smash you every
and
single
normally
time.
normally like normally I hate that in fights when there's like the kia every time they throw a punch, like bah,
Yeah.
bah, Holly Holm style, but it's
Or
different when the punches are
blonde
landing.
fighter.
Yeah, Caitlin Chikagian, is
Yeah.
a notorious one. But
Notorious.
it's just pitter patter shots that they're like screaming with, and you're like, these don't match the aggression
Intensity.
sounds. But then Mackenzie Dern last night, the shots she was landing from the top, the elbows, the hammer fist when she's in the armbar position, and she's screaming with each one. It like matched the. I think there's a picture in here, Rich, of her landing ground and pound while she's like screaming. Yeah, I mean, look at her face.
Jeez.
It was gnarly. And you know what was interesting about this fight? Let me see if I can pull up the scorecards, but I believe the
She
first
got
round
two
was a 10-8
10-8s.
round. Yeah,
I
and
gave
she
her a
should
10-8 in
have.
the third too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she got the 10-8 in the first round. And normally it's like, okay, you get the 10-8 in the first round, and only one judge gave her the 10-8 in the first. Uh, interesting scorecards. But yeah, 10-8 in the first. And then Angela Hill comes back in the second and wins the round. I was
Yeah, it
like,
was a very good
oh,
round for her.
we might have a fight. And it was more like control based more than damage, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it was almost like, did Mackenzie Dern gas out in that first round? And then the third round started, and it was like, oh no, she's fine. She just
Yeah.
got out positioned that round.
I think round two is like a glowing example of why Angela Hill probably would have won this fight if it was on any other fight camp. Like if this was
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
time of her life that she fought Mackenzie Dern, that probably is the example I would point to like, yeah, Angela had the fight IQ, the
Yeah.
skills to put Mackenzie where she needed to win this fight. She was
Mhm.
listening to her coaches, but like I think it was like by the fourth, going into the fifth, she was like, I can't put pressure on her. Like I just
Yeah.
can't do it. What do you want from me?
Because every once in a while, you get away with just like I don't want to disrespect Mackenzie Dern, right? But the striking technique is not um, the best, right? Like
Well,
her chin's wide up, her hands are down,
yeah,
she's swinging from the hips, but they're so powerful that you almost have to just respect what's coming your way. And Angela was trying to be the technical striker and stand there and like slightly slip these shots and land her straight punches, but Mackenzie Dern just like wouldn't allow it. It's one of those
yeah,
weird examples where you just don't need the technique.
yeah. And there were a couple of points where Angela, like, she was getting overwhelmed and she was kind of doing the same thing. Like, she was doing this
Yeah,
dip over to the same side every time. And normally she's really good at like changing over and like double or like back to back forth. But like, bro, your brain can only work so hard for so long. And that was a grueling 25 minutes for her.
yeah. And Mackenzie caught that tendency that Angela Hill was doing, right, where she's ducking to that
Yeah.
side. And then Rich, if you
Yep.
can go back a couple pictures where she lands that knee.
Yep.
Um, I mean, yeah,
And
that was
that was a
that was
brutal
gnarly.
how she stood up from that knee and just
She
like
barely did. She was out on her feet a little bit. But shout out
uh,
Blunderbub saying good morning. Still reeling from the fact that I watched UFC last night. Shout out Blunderbub's a big one I see fan. It was a good card though. The UFC delivered. Um, but yeah, I mean, and she lands that knee, and Mackenzie's like, cool, she's hurt now. Now's the chance for the takedown, and I'll submit her. And she throws the hip toss. I believe it was after the knee where she threw the hip toss,
mhm.
the head and arm throw, where she like overexerted and rolled over, or maybe it was earlier in the fight.
No, that
But
was the first round. The second
okay,
one where
yeah,
she caught her in the knee, she didn't get rolled through because that
okay,
was the
yeah.
third round, and that was the one where it was
Oh, that was
definitely a
dominant.
10-8. Yeah, that
Well,
was
so
the whole round.
if you look at the scorecards, it's crazy. So Mike Bell doesn't give a 10-8 round for the first round, which is insane to me. The third round and the fifth round, he gives 10-8s. And then that's the exact same scorecard from Sal Diamato. And then Ron McCarthy gave her a 10-8 round in the first, a 10-8 round in the third, and a 10-8 round in the fifth. He gave it a 49-43,
Jeez.
which honestly, like, yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
kind of should have been scored, Because how can you tell me that from Mike Bell and Sal Diamato, who gave it a 10-9 in the first round for Dern, how does that round one, score the same as round two for Angela Hill? It shouldn't.
Yeah. True.
It shouldn't.
Uh, I was rereading the scoring over the weekend just for shits and
Yeah.
gigs, and I almost was thinking like you could have you could have justified giving the third round a 10-7
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, it was. Angela had nothing,
at
nothing. I think
all.
she
Like
landed one
she
strike
only
that
had
round.
survival. It was yeah, that was the one strike round, and she only had survival. That was the only thing
Yeah,
she had that round, and good on her because wow, that was
yeah, she did
surviving.
fantastic. I mean, shout out Blunderbub also says I actually enjoy the prelims a lot, despite myself. The prelims were great, but um, the what's crazy about this fight is it got fight of the night. When's the last time a 49-43 fight got fight of the night?
Yeah,
Basically, Mackenzie Dern beat the crap out of Angela Hill so bad they gave her fight of the night.
yeah.
It's crazy, dude. And you know what's
But
insane to me? Go ahead.
it was impressive. Like honestly,
Yeah,
like
it was
as
very.
somebody who gets beat up at the gym a lot, like that was a lot of that was very impressive. That
Yeah.
sit well in my heart.
Yeah, yeah, and she deserves the 50K extra for
Yeah,
that. But you know what's crazy
100%.
about Angela Hill? She's 37 years old. I did not realize she was that old now. When they showed the
Dude, she's
tape,
been
I
around
was like,
forever.
"What?" I know. I mean,
Yeah.
tough. What was it? Tough 18 or something like that. Now they're on
Yep.
like 30 something.
Hmm.
Um, she was on the. It was the same season with Rose and Carlos Esparza, right? Was she on that
I
season?
believe so. Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
so.
that was a fun season. But I think I was in high school when that season aired, so so it's been a long time. Um, I don't know what Angela Hill does from here. I don't think she gets dropped out of the top 15 because she was fighting ranked 8, and the loss here doesn't really, in my opinion, justify her losing a ranking spot. Um, but I know she does a lot of analyst stuff for the UFC now. She's 37 years old. This is a pretty big sign, like, hey, you're not going to cross this hump. It's been a while where you couldn't. Maybe she retires. I don't know. She just fights so often. It's like, how is she still doing this at 37? That's
Yeah,
not.
and that's why I don't think
Go
the
ahead.
UFC is going to want her to. I think these are one of the few fighters that like that's been around for a long time, but the UFC is so willing to keep around. It's
Yeah,
very rare. UFC usually is like as soon as you get on a new contract, they're already trying to push you out the door. But
yeah.
like Angela Hill, Donald Cerrone, there's a few of these fighters out there that the UFC is always wanting to keep around because, like you
It's
said,
a
they
game.
are fighting every other day.
Yeah, yeah. And did she take this on short notice, Angela Hill?
I'm not
I
too
don't think so,
sure.
right? I don't
I
think
don't
she
think
did.
so. Oh, they moved
Uh,
it. It was they moved it.
that's
It
what it
was supposed
was.
to be on the last card, and they moved it over and put it as the main.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a great move if you're if you got a main event. If you get a main event because they're pushing your fight back a week, not the best situation to be in. But
I mean, it was a good idea for her in schematics wise. I mean, it would game plan. She thought she could outgas Mackenzie Dern, who hasn't had the best gas tank in the world. But
yeah,
again, it's just not the fight camp for her.
she also looked. Mackenzie looked in probably the best shape I've seen her in.
Oh yeah.
She had when she had her kid, she had that layoff. She came back shredded, right? And it was like, whoa, Mackenzie Dern is taking this way more seriously. But even last night, she looked better than that, like physically, you know.
Hmm.
Like you said, the circumstance were stacked up against Angela Hill in this one. Mackenzie Dern was gonna win that fight.
Hmm.
Like she went so. I mean, yeah, it was such a great fight. And Mackenzie Dern, she called out Thug Rose, which I think is a great call out. I don't know what's happening with Rose.
Yeah,
I don't know where she's
it's
at.
a good fight if you can get it booked.
Yeah, and I think Rose is somebody that, like we talk about, Mackenzie Dern really just winging her punches in this fight. Rose is someone that isn't going to succumb to that pressure and still be able to have the wherewithal in that fire to stick and move, use her footwork, exploit those holes that Mackenzie Dern's opening. Um, so Mackenzie's not going to be able to fight like this against someone like Rose. That being said, Rose has been out so long. Maybe that is the move. You just try to overwhelm her because she hasn't been. She's rusty, you know.
Or
I
she's
don't know
just
what's
not
happening.
like her mind's not into fight mode in the moment your mind is, and that could
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
win you a fight easy.
Yeah, those are the little things that I think people don't take into consideration. Where because people will say like, "Oh yeah, on any given night, like so and so can beat so and so." It's like, yeah, because on any given night, you might be thinking about,
Your
like,
mom or fucking
yeah,
some bills or
oh,
anything,
my
some
kid's
guy you
sick,
drove
and
with.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you just for whatever reason that flip or that switch doesn't flip. And meanwhile, the other person is going through a divorce and is actively trying to take out the aggression on you.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like then that's like from her mouth. I'm not.
Yeah. Her dad's been fixing to give her a third degree, but hasn't been giving it to her because he's been waiting for a moment like
Yeah,
this.
exactly. Yeah, that was cool
Yeah.
to see. Michael
Mhm.
Bisping's like, I think Bisping was like, wait, was she not a black belt already? When he's putting the belt on
Yeah.
her, you could tell he was like, is she just now? I thought she was a black belt. And her dad's like, third degree. And he's like, oh, third degree. Okay.
Yeah, he was sitting over there like, oh, Dominic's gonna give me shit for not doing my notes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but that was a great fight. It's the first. It breaks the streak the UFC has had. The last 3 fight nights have not had a fight of the night winner because the cards have been terrible. So we got one. We broke the
And it
streak.
was a short notice main event that they moved from a different card. Who would
Yeah,
have
that was
thought?
pretty much a one-sided beatdown.
Hey everybody, Romero and Will here. Thank you so much for watching that short clip. It's just a small clip of what we covered this last Sunday.
Yeah, if you want to check out the full fight card recap, the link is in the description, and it's going to be on screen at the end here. Don't forget to go back and watch our fighter interviews that we have. And don't forget to tune in live every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can join in on the fun.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It goes a long way. All right, everybody, thanks for watching that short clip from Story of the Fight.